Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for stopping in today. We're going to go live here, another live stream. Today, we've got to ask some questions. And before we do that, please feel free to drop a line below over in the chat box there. I'd love to hear your questions. On top of that, we are going to prioritize the members' questions first. I have a few questions lined up here as well, and I want to talk about some of those. And I also want to drop an idea. I want to kind of say who our latest members are. Of course, we have Thomas Helm, one of the OGs. Thanks, Thomas. You've been a great supporter. TAT, another great one. Roy Henning, thanks for dropping in. Nonar, Joshua Karp, and we've got a question from Joshua, Raul Davila, and Marcel Farrell. Thanks again, everybody, for our latest membership list here. And I just want to kind of get into it. But most importantly, it's Friday. And you know what? It's party time. You know what? Tonight, it's a great day. And it's even better because, well, actually, the weather's not shining today, although we've had some smoking weather. And we just got back from California. We all know that it can be warm down there. When we were down in California in Phoenix, it was really, really smoking hot. So today, we're just enjoying a little bit of rain, a little bit of wind, and it's finally cooled off because it was really hot here with no AC in the house. It's been a challenge, but let's get right to it. And we'll talk about what's the car prices. Are we going to see prices drop? And this kind of is one of the questions as to, some of the viewers dropping lines here. I want to mention Joshua Karp. One of our members has that question, asked me that question a few weeks back. And so I just want to get to it. Joshua asks, my question, at some point, I would think prices must come down because as time goes on, the current trends, less people can afford to buy cars. Yes, Joshua, 100%. That was my thinking. And I mean, that's the old adage behind supply and demand. Obviously, if demand is low, supply going up, obviously, and we know supply is going up because we're seeing car lots filling up. We see day supply rising. We're seeing more and more vehicles on the lots. It doesn't matter if you're driving by a Stellantis lot. You've probably looked at Dodge, and you've probably seen Jeeps, and you've seen all kinds of cars. Pardon that phone. That is just another kind of a... We have a little landline here that just kind of phones in, and it's just kind of a pointless phone. But anyway, what I want to say is we see lots of supply out there. And as demand drops, you've got to think, with demand dropping, are we going to see a drop in prices? The unfortunate reality is the way I see with the market going right now is I don't see a ton of demand changing anything. If we see, like I said, a lot more inventory, demand's not there. I think what we're starting to see is dealers offering up more incentives. We're definitely seeing that, and we're seeing some better deals, and we're seeing dealers offering up 0%, which really isn't anything because 0% is really a nothing. But we have to admit that 0% is given somewhere. We know when the banks and the reserves are saying, hey, our base lending rates are at 3.9, 4.9%, 5% rates. You're never going to get 0% because it's always based on the rates of Canada and the US. So what that usually means is if they're offering 0%, that means they're offsetting that on the price of the vehicle. So if you're getting 0% at the dealer, beware, you're probably paying more for the price of that vehicle. Now, with that said, we've got to realize that prices probably should come down a little bit. Now, I think it's a ratcheting effect personally. I don't see prices dropping that drastically. And we're seeing the price bubble and all of these conversations around our prices dropping. I think the market is softening. I think the motivation by dealers to move their vehicles are increasing. I do believe that they're willing to negotiate more than they were. And I do believe that you're going to get some better deals. But I think the base MSRP is truly largely set by the manufacturer. The manufacturer is saying, you know what, we're going to lock you in. This is what it is. And largely, those prices are going to kind of stay where they're at. I don't see MSRP prices dropping that dramatically anywhere. I do see more incentives coming out, whether it's, cash back, or they're going to knock so much off the price of the vehicle, or they're going to give you so much percentage off discounts, or they might throw in some extra widgets. But I don't think we're going to see prices drop that dramatically anytime soon. Unfortunately, we're probably not going to see much of that. So, in my opinion, Joshua, do I see prices dropping? Not really a whole lot. I just see that, I just see that, you're going to get more incentives, and MSRPs might be marginally changed, but that's coming mostly from the manufacturer. That's not coming mostly at the dealer level. The dealer has a finite amount that they can negotiate, and I don't think that we're going to see much change there as time goes on. Just a little more incentives. If anything, I think what you're going to find is models that aren't selling. Like we already heard, Stellantis might be putting Maserati on the chopping block. And so the only thing I see happening are some of these manufacturers stopping production of vehicles that aren't selling, particular models that aren't selling, vehicles that aren't selling. They might wave bye-bye to certain models. I think that's you're going to see more. I think they're going to put more of their efforts into the models that are selling. I think you might start to see a little bit more of those lower trim level vehicles available, which might give you a perception of lower cost. But I think you're just going to get more of those lower trim levels because we know during the pandemic that a lot of those prices were hiked up and they were only selling some of the premium trim level vehicles to make more profits. So hope that helps you there, Joshua, in that question. So yeah, let's move on to another one here. And I know it's a little bit of an early time of day. Most people are still working. It's kind of that odd witching hour at here in Pacific time or Mountain Standard Time here. It's about 4:30. So it's kind of that weird time. Daytime people are heading off to night shifts. People that are coming home aren't quite home yet. East Coast, Eastern Standard, obviously now we're talking 5:30, 6:30. So there's a few rolling in. But it's a little quieter time of day. So what I do see is from Melpoli Yarm asking, any thoughts on the 2024 Broncos? I've been eyeing them for a while. Well, I'm going to kind of ask the question, return this. Are you talking Broncos or Bronco Sports? The Broncos Sports, we know they've had some potential issues with a couple of drivetrains. We know there's a 1.5 liter turbo 3-cylinder. That's a trash engine. Their wet timing system, of course, a belt driving oil pump, that's a bad idea. We also know the cracked fuel injectors, NHTSAs all over that. So Ford hasn't had a good reputation with the 1.5s, junk engines. The 2 liters are a little better. Watch out for those transmission issues. So the Bronco Sports have had some issues with fuel injectors, transmission issues, rattly components. In general, stick with the 2 liter if you need to sport. Otherwise, if you're going the full Bronco, we know the 2.7s, the earlier generations had some problems with the dropping valves in the combustion chambers because the retaining clips on the back ends of the valves were letting go. So there was bad engine assembly and materials there. And so we're probably going to see some issues there with time, more and more problems. Maybe stay away from the 2.7s. There have been other issues with fueling, with drivability concerns. Again, it's early in the generations of these full-size Broncos, so you could see some issues there creep up as time goes on. Anytime you've got a new model, you're going to have teething issues, and Ford will be no different. So I would always suggest maybe the 24s, maybe, again, they've been out for a year or two, maybe stick, I always kind of like to wait a few years, maybe wait till 25, 26, kind of see what's going on there. It might give you a little better perspective, but there have been a few troubles, and watch out more specifically for engine issues, especially in the 2.7s. So I hope that helps you there a little bit. So that is another great question. And we have another one here drop in. So we have Winds of Change 2023 asks a question. What's the spotted black paint color on the BMW? I presume you're talking about that metallic black. It's not a flat black. It's not pure black. It's metallic, I presume. And I've had that on a couple of our vehicles. We had the E70X5 and our E60 M5 has it as well. And that's called sapphire metallic. Sapphire metallic gives it that nice shine to it. It's a beautiful paint. It's was used in a lot of different models, and a lot of, they used it for quite a few different years. So the sapphire metallic is their nice metallic black. It's a good looking paint job. I like it too. A little harder to match if you've got to do a little touch up, but that's the one. What else do we have here? Anybody else? Victor Lega 2718 is asking a question. Victor Lega, what are you asking? So Camry also doing the CVT transmissions? Yes. I would say for most of their standard garden variety engines, the V6s or the straight fours, they're not using the CVTs. They're using the CVTs, the continuously variable transmission, when they're coupling up, essentially the ECVTs, or when they're using the hybrid drive with the gas engines. So when Toyota usually tees them up, remember, hybrids, they're usually using the e-drives, so the ECVTs, because they use a stronger configuration. It's not like the Jatco CVTs that you're finding in the Nissans and even the Subarus, where there's kind of a flimsier setup. Toyota's got the most robust CVT system in the market, and that usually means it's got the first gear is a lot more torquey, can tolerate the strong takeoff, and the acceleration can handle the torque, as well as uses a planetary gear arrangement instead of the old belts and pulleys and shivs. So Toyota, if you're going to buy a vehicle with a CVT transmission, Toyota is really the only one to go with, in my personal opinion. Otherwise, look for a vehicle that's either got a manual transmission, that's the best, and if not, the torque converter automatic transmission works. And other vehicles that don't have any of that and they're rocking a double clutch gearbox, that's also a little bit of a maintenance intensive gearbox, but it is one in which is a lot of fun to drive. So yeah, that's the gist of that. And so the long and short of it is, let's just get right to it. What's the car market like? Since we thought we'd talk about this today, and that seems the hot topic, let's just expand on that a little bit, because Joshua dropped the question already, but I'm just going to add to that. We've seen a lot of changes in the market here in the last little bit, and we're watching the market go up and down, like a bit of a yo-yo. And this is clearly more of a buyer's market right now. I mean, we're getting more incentives. Dealers are talking and they are negotiating. I'm actually in the middle of a negotiation on a BMW right now, a used one. And I can tell you right now, they're sticking pretty sharply to book prices. They're definitely not negotiating all that much in the good negotiations we've been part of. I haven't seen this particular dealer hasn't been that keen on really taking much off the price. And he said, we offered a price, they countered it, but they weren't really moving much. They did say, well, let's talk in 30 days if we still have the vehicle. So what they're doing is they're still playing a little bit of that hardball. We know what's going on a little bit with some of these vehicles. And again, they're just not selling. They're literally not selling, but yet the dealers aren't super enthusiastic about dealing and wheeling. And so what ends up happening here now is we're still in that conundrum. We're in a space where new cars are still fairly high priced, although there's more incentives off of sticker. We know Nissan, for example, is a brand that hasn't been selling all that well, and they've incentivized from the manufacturer even more money off for the buyer, but also they've been offering extra incentives for the salespeople to try to push some of the 23s, 24s. So there's all kinds of incentives flying around. Certain manufacturers are really incentivizing heavy. And as a result of that, Nissan's losing a lot of money this round because they've been throwing so much incentives at their cars. Stellantis, the Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, Dodge, they're not selling very well either. Um, Lots of product on the showroom floors and on the lots. They've been selling, but not that crazy. And honestly, it feels like they're hemorrhaging money too. Other manufacturers, you talk about the Toyotas and Hondas and Lexus, a small amount of days supply because those are generally sitting around not very long, 20, 30 days. Within a month, all their product typically sells versus, the Dodge Ram products are up around that 130, 140, 50 days supply. So usually they're, in that 5 days on give or take, when the industry average is sitting around that, 70 days supply. Um, Certain brands are selling a lot faster than others. And so I guess what my message is, if you want a great deal and you're not fussy, look at what the day's supply is. Go on Car Gurus. Look at your type of vehicle. How long has that vehicle been sitting? You can filter on the side there. How long has that vehicle been sitting on the lot for? That gives you the best bargaining power. If the vehicle is new on the lot, likely you're not going to negotiate very well. You're going to have to let them sit on it and sweat for a while. And you risk the chance on it going bye-bye. That's the unfortunate reality. But if you want to get the best deal, you've got to negotiate, look at days supply, and those are going to be your bargaining chips. But the market in general is still a little wishy-washy. New vehicles still highly priced, but more incentives. So it is little bit more of a buying or a seller's market or buyer's market. The used car market has been very slowly dwindling, but it's holding quite strong. Did you also know that the average car payment right now is around $740 a month? Did you also know that about 17%, over 17% of buyers taking out loan on their car now are paying over $1,000 a month? This is literally getting out of hand. But the reality, you can't really get much of a car anymore if you're not paying, $700, $800, $900 a month. I mean, you're going to relegate yourself to a Nissan Versa or Versa Note or those types of cars if you want to be in that $300, $400 a month range. Otherwise, to get anything reasonable, you're going to be stuck getting up in that $800 to $1,000 and $1,200 a month if you don't have much down. So the car market is in a bizarre place, and people are snookered, but people are running out of money, and so that's why the used car market is holding strong because they can't afford new. So they're looking at used, but the good late model used vehicles are still holding their own. And so now the sweet spot happens to be in that $5,000 to $15,000 range. But even those are driving up. Those used to be a $2,000, $3,000 car, are now $8,000. So the market's just bananas right now. My advice would be, continue driving what you've got as long as you can. And eventually you've got to buy something different. But if you can, put the new set of tires and brakes and keep it going, make it look pretty as long as you can, give it a little extra touch-up paint and clean up the interior and make it feel nice for another year or two. Hey, it's just money in your pocket, in my opinion. So that would be my suggestion. Put a larger down payment. Try to negotiate a better interest rate. Remember, the longer we wait, the more chances of the Bank of Canada and the reserves drop in interest rates based on inflation. If inflation starts to do its magic, then we might start to see drops in inflation. And if that's the case, you might have some good bargaining available. So that'd be my in my recommendation is get yourself, just get yourself some good touch-up paint, clean up your vehicle, fix it up real nice, and keep it going as long as you can. So anyway, I'm going to cut this short today. It's been now just about 20 minutes. Thanks again, everybody. And I really hope to see you all real soon. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.